Okay. Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here. My name is Amir Sharif. I'm a researcher at Security and Trust Research Unit of Fondazione Bruno Kessler in Trento, Italy. And today, I'm going to talk about waiting for the EUDI Wallet, securing the transition from SAML to OpenID Connect. So before going to the main part of the talk, I would like to spend a couple of minutes to introduce Fondazione Bruno Kessler and Cybersecurity Center of this foundation. So FVK is a research center in the north part of Italy that it aims to achieve excellence in science and technology with an emphasis on interdisciplinary approaches. It hosts more than 450 researchers, and through its international PhD program, it attracts more than 130 international students from different 25 countries. And regarding the Cybersecurity Center, that I'm part of it, we have three different research groups, which are Aleph, Rising, and Security and Trust. So the first one, we are working on the applied cryptography, and we are providing cutting-edge cryptographic solutions for decentralization of the trust, privacy-enhancing technologies, and so on. In the second group, which is Rising, we are developing cutting-edge security solutions for network-related stuff, like threat and anomaly detection. And lastly, on the Security and Trust Research Unit, we are mainly focused on identity and access management topics. So now let's dive into the main part of the talk. In the first part, I would like to spend some time to speak about the Italian OpenID Connect profile. And after that, I will spend some time to speak about some of the activities that we are doing regarding to the wallet based on the EIDAS revised regulation. So in Italy, we have two national EID schemes, which are SPID and CID. So SPID, it is stand for Public Digital Identity System, which is handled by the Agency for Digital Italy. And the second one is CID, that is a solution based on the electronic identity card that is owned by the Ministry of Interior, and it's handled by the Italian Printing Office and State Mint. And to give you some statistics of the use of these two national EID schemes, so more than 55% of the Italian population are using these two solutions. And recently, back in 2022, we started digital transition from SAML to OpenID Connect due to these main reasons that, first of all, it's more flexible and developers are more comfortable with that, and it provides a better support for the native applications. And secondly, it has consolidated and very active community, so regarding the specification and best current practices. Just to give you some overview on the Italian OpenID Connect profile, it's built on top of two main pillars. The first one is the iGov, the International Government Assurance Profile. And the second one, which is mainly used to establishing the trust in the federated identity solutions, is the usage of the OpenID Federation. So why we decide to go with the OpenID Federation to handle the trust? This is what I'm going to explain very briefly in the next slide. So in the federation systems, so usually we are having lots of participants, are running parties, identity providers, and there is a need to establish the trust between these different entities. And this need leads to this problem, leads to a need which is a trust model. And one way to reach this trust model is the usage of OpenID Federation. So why we use the OpenID Federation? There are three main reasons. First of all, it's dynamic. Secondly, it's scalable. And the third one is transparent. And afterwards, it will be a presentation on OpenID Federation that they will dive on other aspects of this specification that make us motivated to implement it within our profile. So currently, in the Italian profile, we have the implementation of the OpenID Connect core web, and we have an implementation of the OpenID Connect OpenID Federation. And we are still working on improving the Italian profile by providing some improvements on the session management regarding the single sign-on, and providing the profile for the mobile. And in addition to that, we are working in order to integrate the identity assurance and the profile related to the FOPI inside our profile. So in addition to this kind of works, we are developing some kind of automated security assessment tools that provide a way in order to test the implementation of not only the OpenID providers, but also the relying parties and the federation entities, which is called micro-ID GIM, that it provides an automatic way to do the pen testing of both the relying parties and the OpenID providers. So in the next couple of slides, I would like to spend some time in order to explain some of the main security considerations that we integrate within our Italian profile. So first of all, do not use implicit flow. I think as all of us know, so the problem with the implicit flow is that it returns the tokens in the front channel that make it susceptible to a web attacker to install these tokens, and then it can reply it to access the resource of the user. So that's why there is the authorization code flow. However, the authorization code flow itself is not enough, because it would be the case that the code leaked to an attacker and it could exchange it for the token and then impersonate the user. That's why there is a need for this wonderful PXE parameter that provides a way to mitigate the code injection and code reply attacks, as the code would be only usable using the code verifier and is one-time use. So another security-based current practice that we include within our profile is the usage of issuer identifier parameter in order to avoid the mix-up attacks. So what is the mix-up attack? So consider a scenario that there is a relying party that starts the flow with an attacker IDP instead of the honest one. So what this attacker IDP can do is like to substitute the client identifier of that relying party with the client identifier of that relying party in the honest IDP. And by going forward, the user can perform the authentication. And as the relying party thinks it starts the interaction with the IDP of attacker, it will return the code to the token endpoint of the attacker that then enables the attacker to exchange it for the token and then impersonate the user. So what this each parameter is doing, it's in the authorization response, it returns the identifier of the issuer, and then the RP, by checking that, can understand that this attack is going on and then avoid this problem. So another point that I would like to speak about it is the usage of OpenID Connect request parameter in the authorization request. So it provides a way in order to provide the message integrity by pushing all the authorization request parameters inside a single object that is signed by the RP. And in this way, it can avoid the modification of the parameters by a web attacker. And regarding the parameters that we consider inside the authorization request, we have the nonce to mitigate the CSRF. We are using ACR values in order to enable a strong authentication. And for providing data minimization, we are using the IDC claim parameter. That is a way to specify certain claims to be returned in the from the user info endpoint or inside the ID token. In the token request, we are performing the client authentication by using the asymmetric-based client authentication method based on the private key JOT. That is one of the security best current practices in the latest OWASP BCP. So regarding the token and the claims that we are including, we are using the pairwise subject identifier that provides a way in order to avoid correlating the user activities across different RPs, as the user will have different subject identifier on the different RPs. Secondly, we are including the nonce, as I mentioned earlier, for mitigating the reply and CSRF attacks. And then the JTI is the parameter in order to enable to detect reply of already processed ID tokens. Regarding the access token, we are supporting the JOT format based on RFC 9068 that enables the resource server to perform the local validation of the access tokens, and it doesn't demand to contact the OP to perform these checks. And another important point that I would like to highlight in our profile, as the only resource server by the time is the user info endpoint, we are not considering sender constraint access tokens, because the response from that is an encrypted JOT, that even if the access token has linked to the attacker cannot decrypt the response because it doesn't have the needed key. So as a summary of countermeasures that we consider, as I mentioned earlier, for mitigating client impersonation, we are using the asymmetric private key JOT. And for mitigating the authentication request modification, we are using the OIDC request parameter. On the privacy side, we have the pairwise subject to avoid the user tracking using the sub. And for data minimization, we are using the claims. So now in the second part of the talk, I would like to spend some time to explain you some of our activities that we are doing in the context of the EUDI Wallet. So as you already get aware in the previous presentation by Thorsten, the European Digital Identity Wallet was introduced as a result of the new EIDAS revised regulation. And it aims to enable the user to be under control of to make the user to be under control of their data. And it should enable document storage. So you should be able to store your physical documents in a digital form, like you can have your ID cards, your passport, your driving license. And it should enable the transactions both in the physical, in proximity, and in the digital in remote flows. And the introduction of the wallet, it makes a shift in the paradigm of the authentication. Because in the classical federated user authentication, there is a user that wants to access a resource on the RP. And then the RP needs to first authenticate to understand who is the user. So that's why it redirects the user to an IDP or OP. And after the user authentication, the RP will grant the access to the user. So in this kind of scenarios, the IDP or OP involved in each user login attempt. While by the introduction of the wallet, the idea is that you will have two different phases. The issuance phase, that the holder will go to an issuer and ask for its credential. And after obtaining its credential, there is a second phase, which is the presentation phase, that enables the users to present the credentials directly to the RP or verifier without the involvement of the issuer. That's why it's going to be more privacy preserving. So regarding our design, we are using lots of drafts and specifications from the IETF and OpenID Foundation. And so regarding the format, we are using the SCJOT VC, and we are integrating the OpenID for identity assurance with that in order to provide assurance and authentic sources. And for the client authentication, we are using a new IETF draft that provides a way to use what is called wallet attestation and is proof of possession in order to perform the wallet authentication at the authorization endpoint. And then for the trust model, as we already have the OpenID Federation, so we are extending it in order to apply it in the context of the wallet as well. And for the presentation, we are using the OpenID for VC specifications, the credential issuance for the issuance phase, and verify the presentation for the presentation phase. And as it was mentioning by Thorsten, as the format should be both in the based on STJOT and MDoc Chibor. So we are using the ISO 18 or 13-5 for supporting the MDoc format. So just to give you a very high-level flow of our issuance. So when the user installs the wallet, we have a preliminary setup phase that the wallet will use the platform API services in order to contact the backend or the attestation service to obtain what is called wallet attestation. That is a way to attest that the wallet that is installed on the device is a genuine version of the wallet solution that provided by the wallet provider. And then when the user wants to request a credential, so in this case I'm using the PID, for example, what it happens first in our use case, the wallets will contact the Federation API services in order to obtain a list of trusted PID providers and to obtain additionally the metadata that it needs to perform the authentication request. And by doing the authentication request, so as I was mentioning, because we are using the push authorization request in order to send this authentication request, we need to perform a kind of client authentication. And in order to do that, we are using the IETF draft that provides a way to use the already a way to use this wallet attestation as a way to perform this client authentication and to tell the issuer that this wallet is a genuine app, that it can do the wallet provider verification based on that as well. And the rest is like the same as the OpenID Connect flow. So you will obtain a code after performing the user authentication, and you will exchange that code for obtaining an access token that's used later for the obtaining of to making the credential request to obtaining the PID. So regarding, just to give you a very high level, high-level view of what we are supporting so far in the credential issuance. So our flow is based on outcode flow, and we use PXE and pair in the authorization request. By the time we are not supporting the pre-authorization code flow, and we are working on the issuer-initiated flows based on the credential offer. And another important point is that in this ecosystem, we are not using bearer tokens, and we are using sender constraint tokens by using the Depop. And if you would like to know more about our issuance specification, I put the link that you can. And there are some open points that we are working on that. So by the time for requesting a certain credential type, we are using the authorization details from the RAR, Rich Authorization Request specification. However, we are investigating the potential of using the scope parameter, and we have the patch credential endpoint to be implemented, but so far we are postponing it because as far as we know, it will be some breaking changes in the new draft, which is after the implementing draft. And we have some differences with one of the profile of the OpenID Connect specifications, which is the OpenID for VC high assurance interoperability profile. So by now, we are not considering the usage of the refresh tokens, at least for the PID scenario, for refreshing the PID. We may consider the usage of refresh token only for the EAAs. So we are not supporting the pre-auth code flow, and we have some concerns on using the custom URL, and we are investigating how to use the universal links instead of that. And concerning the trust evaluation, so we are hoping to include the OpenID Federation in the hype as a potential way for establishing the trust. So this is the summary of the threats and countermeasures that we are considering so far. So for the avoiding of the wallet impersonation, we are having the client authentication and wallet attestation check. And to avoid obtaining of access token, we are using the sender consent tokens based on Depop. And based on the privacy part for enabling the selective disclosure, we are using the SDJOT. And concerning some larger scale pilots that are put in table by the European Commission, so we are involved in 3 of them to test the functionality of our solution or wallet, which are potential, no-bid, and DC for EU. And we are working on concrete proposals for providing the trust model on the issuance phase and MDL use cases based on the proximity and remote flows. So this was a very high-level overview of what we are doing in the Italian identity ecosystem. And I provide the links to the IT wallet specification, some of our related publications in the field of the identity management, and our automatic tools that are open source that could be used in order to check the implementation. And lastly, I would like to invite all of you for 2 of the events that we are organizing this April. So the first one is the Trends on Digital Identity that is co-located with the OWASP Security Workshop that will take place in Rome in April 2024 from 9 to 12. Thanks everyone for their attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.